They say the dead should rest in peace, but some queens refuse to be forgotten. Once upon a time, in the powerful Ashanti kingdom, there was a queen who refused to stay buried. Her name was Queen Efua the Wise, and her rule was just, her wisdom unmatched. She guided her people through war, drought, and famine, earning their love and respect. But even the greatest rulers must one day face death. And when her time came, the kingdom mourned as never before. But death was not the end of her reign. The day of her burial, the drums of mourning thundered across the land, their deep, sorrowful beats shaking the heavens. The golden casket, adorned with sacred symbols, was lowered into the earth. The chief priest chanted final rites, calling upon the ancestors to welcome their daughter home. Then, just as the last words were spoken, the earth trembled. A cold wind howled through the gathering, snuffing out every touch in an instant. The sky darkened unnaturally. Gasps rippled through the crowd, and then a voice rang out. The voice they all knew. Why do you bury me when I have not finished ruling? The warriors dropped their weapons. The elders fell to their knees. Some fled, others stood frozen, their eyes wide with terror. For Queen Efua was dead, but she was speaking. For weeks, the palace was plagued by whispers in the night. Servants heard footsteps in empty halls. Mirrors fogged as if someone was breathing upon them. Candles flickered and died without wind. The new queen, Adoma, awoke to find her golden bracelets missing, only for them to reappear upon the empty throne of the dead queen. One night, as King Kwame sat alone in his chambers, staring at the throne beside him, the shadows shifted. You took my place too soon, husband. The king's blood ran cold. Desperate, he summoned the kingdom's greatest diviners. They all spoke the same words. Queen Efua has unfinished business. She will not rest until it is done. There is only one way, said the oldest priest. Summon her, ask her what she desires. On the night of the full moon, they gathered in the sacred grove. A fire was lit. The drums of the ancestors thundered. The priest chanted words forbidden to mortal tongues. The flames flickered, then died, and she stepped out of the darkness. Neither ghost nor flesh. Her body shimmered like moonlight upon water. Her eyes, once warm, now burned with an outward light. She lifted her gaze to the king. I am not here for vengeance. The king's breath caught in his throat. The entire kingdom gathered in the palace court the next day. The elders, the warriors, the noble families all stood in an uneasy silence. Efua appeared before them, though no wind stirred and no mortal breath passed her lips. She turned to the king, her gaze piercing. I did not die of sickness, she said. I was poisoned. A hush fell over the court. She turned to the royal wives and then to Queen Adoma. The young queen's face drained of color. It is a lie, she cried. She is a spirit. She cannot prove such a thing. But Efua only lifted her hand. From the shadows, a cup floated forward, the very cup she had sipped from on the night of her death. The king's face darkened. He had given that cup to Efua himself, and it was Queen Adoma who had poured the wine. Adoma's hands trembled. No, this is witchcraft lies, she screamed. The court gasped as unseen hands grabbed her wrists and her ankles. She screamed, thrashing, but the spirits of the ancestors had come for her. No, she wailed. No, please. I was meant to be queen. But the darkness swallowed her, dragging her into the void from which there was no return. Queen Efua turned to the king. Now I may rest. But as her form faded, her voice carried one final warning. Do not forget, Kwame. You rule only because I allow it. I will always watch over this kingdom. and then she was gone. From that day forward, the Ashanti people spoke of her, the queen who ruled even in death. And sometimes, on nights when the wind howled through the palace halls, the king would sit alone, his heart pounding, knowing he was never truly alone.